My name is Kashif, and this story is about a house that was never truly empty, no matter how abandoned it appeared. It is a tale that defies logic and reason, a story of shadows, doppelgangers, and a curse that refuse to lift. If there is an empty house in your neighborhood, you should listen carefully to this story, because not every vacant place is truly empty. We were four friends, myself, Ali, Usman, and Haris. Our friendship had lasted for many years. Ali and I had been childhood friends growing up in the same street. We met Usman and Haris during our youth, and though they were not from our neighborhood, they became a regular part of our lives. Whenever we gathered, Haris would often share stories about the house next to his. It was the last house on the street, and right next to it was Haris's home. That house had been empty for a very long time. 10 years ago, an elderly woman had lived there. She had no children. After her husband passed away, she lived alone. It seemed that she had no one to call her own. Haris's mother, whose name was Samira Begum, was the only person in the neighborhood who had a friendly relationship with the old woman. The reason was that Samira Begum was a skilled tailor. She would sew the old woman's clothes without charging any fees. One day, the old woman collapsed in the street, unconscious. The neighbors rushed her to the hospital, but she passed away before they could even reach there. A collective decision was made, and with contributions from the community, her funeral was arranged. Her house was locked up. There was not much of value inside. A drug addict named Faisal from the same area had his eyes on this abandoned house. He would sneak in during the late hours of the night and manage to steal some items. It provided him with his drug fix for a few days. Encouraged by his success, his courage grew. But one day, his condition was terrible. He desperately needed drugs and had no money. He decided to enter the house again. This time, however, something happened that alerted the entire neighborhood. His terrifying screams woke everyone up. When the door of the old woman's house was opened, he was found injured in the bathroom. That night when he entered the house, he didn't find much of value. He knew there wasn't much there, so he went to the bathroom to try and remove the faucet. Then the horrifying incident occurred. When the neighbors brought him out, blood was pouring from his head. The wound was deep. Haris's father and some others took him to the hospital. He received 5 stitches. When asked what had happened, he told a terrifying story. He said he was trying to remove the faucet, but it wouldn't budge. Suddenly, he heard a sound from the courtyard as if something had fallen. He got scared, thinking someone had entered the house. He peeked out from behind the bathroom door and saw a man standing in the courtyard looking around. The darkness made it impossible to see the man's face. Faisal assumed that this man was also there to steal. He decided to let him take whatever he wanted. He stood silently, watching. The man went into the kitchen, then came out and entered a room. Shortly after, when the man came out, Faisal saw a box in his hand in the dim moonlight. He thought it was a jewelry box. Greed took over his heart. Without thinking, he picked up an iron rod lying nearby and followed the man. The man stopped near the wall, probably about to climb over it. Faisal came up behind him and saw that the man indeed had a jewelry box in his hand. Greed overwhelmed him, and he struck the man on the head with the iron rod. The man fell face down without making a sound. The box slipped from his hand. At the very moment Faisal struck the blow, he felt a severe pain in his own head. But he needed the money for drugs. He ignored the pain and started searching the ground for the box. But he couldn't find it. He thought perhaps the man he had struck was lying on top of it. Now, with anxiety and desperation, he approached the fallen man. His own head was throbbing with pain. He grabbed the man by the shoulder and turned him over. From that close distance, he saw the man's face clearly, and with a jolt, he let go. The first scream he let out was when he saw that face. It was no one else but Faisal himself. Faisal was looking at himself, lying bloody on the ground. Blood was flowing from his head. He touched his own head and found blood there too. Screaming in terror, he rushed back into the bathroom. Faisal narrated all this with great difficulty. His condition was so bad that he could barely speak. After his wounds were treated, he was sent home. The news spread through the neighborhood that the old woman's house was haunted. The very next day, shocking news arrived: Faisal had died. He was from the same area. His funeral was held and people began to talk. For a few days there was silence. Then life returned to normal, but everyone was now terrified of that house. Over time, that empty house turned into a ruin. Horace would often say that strange sounds came from it. With the house already empty, and after that incident, every unusual occurrence was attributed to it. Whenever we saw it, we felt a strange unease emanating from it. The worst part was that people began dumping their garbage in the ruins. During the month of Rajab, Horace's father started construction on the upper floor of their house. Horace was given the responsibility of supervising the laborers. He started missing our gatherings. We assumed it was because of the work. When Horace didn't come, Usman often didn't come either, since they usually came together. Only Ali and I would keep each other company. One day, Usman came to meet us after a long time. Horace still hadn't come. When we asked about the situation, Usman told us that a new story had begun. A few days earlier, a laborer named Zafar had reported seeing a light flickering in one of the rooms of the empty house. From a distance, it looked like a fire. But by the time he called another worker to show him, the light had disappeared. No one believed him. Horace didn't mention anything about it either, not wanting to scare anyone. But Zafar insisted the next day that he had been working on the roof and saw a man standing in the courtyard of that house, staring at him angrily. When he called others to show them, there was no one there. The other laborers started making fun of him. One laborer, Nadim, called Zafar a drug addict, and Zafar, being hot-tempered, got into a fight with him. Usman and Horace had to intervene. The next day, a strange incident occurred. It was the time of the Maghrib prayer. Zafar was working on the roof, and this time he wasn't alone, another worker was with him. Suddenly, Zafar picked up a brick and, cursing, threw it into the courtyard of that house. His companion was shocked and tried to stop him as Zafar began picking up more bricks. With great difficulty, he was brought down, but Zafar lunged at Nadim, who was standing nearby, unprepared for the attack. Nadim fell backward, hitting his head on a stone, and it split open. Everything happened so fast that no one understood what was happening. Nadim was rushed to the hospital, while Zafar sat calmly in a corner. Horace called his father and Usman. Neither of them spoke to Zafar. The contractor and Horace's father arrived together. The contractor slapped Zafar. Zafar insisted that Nadim had been standing in the courtyard of the empty house, cursing him. How could he tolerate that? That's why he threw the brick. But Zafar's story didn't make sense. How could Nadim have been in that locked house? They realized that what had happened to Faisal was happening to Zafar too. At least Nadim's life was saved. Zafar was fired from the job. New laborers arrived and work resumed. But strange things continued. People started dumping more garbage. Usman and Horace even saw black magic items in the courtyard, likely discarded along with the garbage. Horace's family was very worried. They didn't know what to do. Usman also told us about something he and Horace had witnessed with their own eyes. From the roof, they could see into the empty house's courtyard. They saw many scattered bags, but in the corner, a circle of blue, pink, and white bags was spinning in a slow, circular motion. There was no wind to move them. It looked as if someone was spinning them, and this continued for a long time. Hearing all this, Ali and I were astonished. We went to visit Horace that very day. He confirmed everything. He said that the previous night his family had heard the sound of drums from the neighboring house. We talked with Horace, but we avoided looking into that house. Eventually, construction was completed. They rented out the upper floor and locked the roof. The tenant was a small family, husband, wife, and 2 children. For a few days, everything was fine. Then the problem started again. From the balcony of the upper floor, the courtyard of the empty house was still visible. The tenant's children began to peer over. One day, the tenant's wife asked her daughter to take a garbage bag downstairs. The child, not wanting to stop playing, simply tossed the bag from the balcony into the courtyard of the empty house. This happened repeatedly. The girl would often stand at the end of the balcony and look into the courtyard. Her mother would scold her and bring her back, but she kept doing it. One night at 2:00 a.m., the mother woke up to find her daughter missing. She was found standing on the balcony claiming that a wedding was taking place in the courtyard, but there was only silence. She was forcibly brought back. Then one day, people passing by saw the girl hanging from the balcony, trying to jump into the empty house. A crowd gathered, and she was rescued with great difficulty. The tenants moved out after 3 months. Now Horace's house also became famous in the neighborhood. Horace's father arranged for prayers to be read. The problematic section of the balcony was sealed off, and going to the roof was forbidden. The incident stopped, but Horace says that the sounds still come to this day. The boundary wall is now crumbling. That abandoned house belongs to no one. Friends, there are some places on earth where no one can live. Some lands are not meant to be inhabited. They belong to something else, something that will always ensure they remain empty.